as you know, Judy and I made Aliyah 10 months ago, but we'd spent a considerable amount of time in Israel over the past 11 years. But one of the aspects of living in Israel we hadn't truly appreciated previously was that we are truly living part of the Jewish calendar. It's an integral part of your life. And we're now between two of the most important events that have really shaped Judaism, Pesach and Shavuot. And in this period of the counting of the Omer, there are three especially important days of significance. Yom HaShoah, which occurred a week ago, Yom HaZikaron, which commemorates the fallen soldiers and people who have died from terrorist attacks, and that's immediately followed by Yom HaAtzmaut. Now, these first 2 days, Yom HaShoah and Yom HaZikaron, are extraordinarily solemn days within Israel, days of where grief is poured out through the country. The whole country stops, sirens are sounded. And it's often asked why it is necessary to have 2 days like this. Well, Yom said that Yom HaZikaron reminds us of the cost of having Israel, the fallen soldiers, the civilians who have died in terrorist attacks. Whereas Yom HaShoah reminds us of the cost of not having an Israel. But these two very solemn days are immediately followed by Yom HaAtzmaut, a day of incredibly joyous celebration. And to be in Israel at this time is truly an extraordinary privilege. Usually what happens at this time is that there are barbecues and picnics, the parks are packed with people, flags are everywhere. But of course, because of Corona, this feeling of joy is still there, but the events cannot occur. And it's extraordinary, there is this still feeling of joy and pride in the country. And it's a feeling that pervades the whole of society, whether or not you're Chiloni or Dati, whether or not you're a Likudnik or vote for Meretz. There's still a realization that here we are in Israel, our homeland. And after 2,000 years, to be celebrating in our homeland as part of the Jewish nation is really quite extraordinary. It's a humbling experience. And I can only imagine how our ancestors, for generations going back 2,000 years, must have hoped and prayed for this time to be a reality. And now we, at this moment, are so privileged to be basically living their dream. As an old-fashioned, unreconstructed Zionist, it's a feeling which is really too intense for me to describe. But it's also a reminder of the extraordinary challenges that face Israel, a country that's under constant existential threat. And I know of no other country where its existence is even questioned, let alone threatened. You just take it for granted if you live in Australia or England, America. And now, of course, with Corona, there's the extra threat. And the Israeli response has been truly remarkable. And this is something I do know about because I work in Hadassah. And Hadassah, of course, is a main hospital within Jerusalem. And the two main hotspots for Corona in Israel are, because of the demographics, of Jerusalem and Bnei Brak, just outside Tel Aviv. And presently in Israel, there's about 16,000 cases. There's been 200 deaths and about 100 people are on ventilators. And this is truly a remarkable result considering the density of the populations. And I want to emphasize that all people are treated exactly the same, whether or not it's Christian, Muslim or Jew. Everyone, there is absolutely no distinction. And I also want to point out, and this is something I know personally, is that the extraordinary efforts that Israel has made to help the Arabs in the West Bank and in Gaza. But of course, this is never mentioned in the press. But these good results haven't occurred just by chance. It's required considerable planning. The end of February, when I was organising to come back to Australia for Pesach, we received a letter and a text message to say that all leave for doctors and nurses have been cancelled and no one could travel overseas. And that started the planning, which they learned from others what to do, looking at what happened in other countries. Hospitals such as Hadassah was divided into two, a Corona hospital and a clean hospital. We're all given specialist training on how to treat Corona. We're all taught how to use the ventilators. Very stringent hygiene techniques were brought into place with the hospital and throughout the community. And this has really resulted in what is so far very good results. But the spirit of the country during this time, the morale has remained really remarkable. It's a time when Israelis really are truly at their best. A time when they're really caring for others, not just in words, but in actions. And it's a time when their usual brashness is turned into a really caring attitude. But of course, this has come with considerable economic pain. And this is a time that organisations in Israel, such as Hadassah and Israel itself, needs the support of the diaspora, just as the diaspora needs the support of Israel. And can any of you imagine what it would be like to live in a world without an Israel? But this is what our ancestors had to do for the past 2,000 years. And here we are. How privileged we are to be here after 2,000 years on Yom Ha'atzmaut, celebrating life in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. What a miracle this truly is. And as both Judy and I realise, there's a generation of Jews living now, whether or not we're living in Israel or we're living in the diaspora, we are truly blessed. And for Judy and myself, this is a very special privilege to be here on this day. And I'm very pleased to be able to share it with you. Thank you.